All right, thank you. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that if if you have the tool and you don't take full advantage of it, then it'll become harder for you to automate. Yes, it doesn't block you, but it makes your life a little bit harder. So anytime you write an automated test, it's going to be lengthy. It's a lengthy process without using the right tools. So today what I will do, I will basically, and I'm gonna show you guys. So what I did is nothing changed in terms of structure, but if I now right click and run, it runs it, right? And the only thing I did is actually came here and took their, let's see, I just applied this, that's it. The problem was with Cucumber, and we were missing two things in terms of the differences from the Maven repository versus here. Maven repository do not include the scope, right? And it does. So I feel like that is something to do with how IntelliJ works. It was looking for maybe the scope as well. But now this is something to note. So if in the future, if we face the same issue, make sure to add scope with your dependency, Cucumber dependency. So we'll go ahead and write our test from scratch. And this is pretty much scratch at this point. We created last time. And we're at this point where we just wrote a single line. Okay, so we'll take it from here. And nothing else changed, right? Because the only thing I did is just added this 611 version of Cucumber and just copied and pasted here from the IntelliJ, and it's working just fine. So you guys should probably try this as well. And if there's any problem, you guys can reach out and we will look at it together. But that solved my problem.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So I did up to the resources, so the features and all the yeah. So it was recognizing. So it was suggesting me to do download install the Gherkin. So that's why I was like, why I have to install Gherkin. So I did, then it allowed me to it was recognizing feature given and when, and also I couldn't dry run. Is it because of the one you just showed? We have to download.
It could be the same reasons, because I had the same issue. If you have the same issue as last time, whatever you guys saw that I was going through, if it's the same, then yes, it is the same issue. But if you go to your IntelliJ plugin, and if you go to install,
how do I go to plugin? Can you show it again?
Sure. So if you click on IntelliJ IDEA and then click on preference,
okay,
and once you click on preference, you should be landing on this page, and then click on plugin and then click on install. So these are some of the installed plugin that you need. So we need Gherkin and we need Cucumber for Java. So these two you need 100%. And everything else is installed is by default came in. So it's something that we don't really need. But when you join a company and you're using IntelliJ, you can always ask like, hey, which plugins, can I just see which plugins you guys are using? If you see something easier, or they're using a plugin to make themselves a little bit more efficient, then it doesn't hurt to ask them, like, can I see what kind of plugins you guys are using for IntelliJ? And that's it, right? If you need extra, you can also get it from them. Just basically search here and see which plugin will be helpful to you. So these community version of IntelliJ do not have a lot of plugins that could be premium when your company pays for, let's say your company is paying for IntelliJ Ultimate, then you'll see a lot more options. It just makes it easier for you to automate. So now I will give you guys a little small tour in terms of why I was kind of wanted to make sure that I can run it through IntelliJ first, is because when you want to write a test, not only that you want to create a new step, but also maybe you want to stop somewhere, so that way you can go ahead and see what's happening on the screen before you can continue to write the next step, right? So what I just did is I'm trying to debug and use the IntelliJ built-in debugger by clicking here. So I want to stop at this line. So this line is not going to run. It's going to run this line and then done. So now I'm going to go ahead and, oh, doing the wrong running, actually off. So now what I'm going to click on debug, okay? And let's see what happens. So
Yeah,
in the
one more
first,
question. Can I ask one more?
yeah, go ahead.
So you see how you running the page, but I can't run the page at all. And I can't
Okay.
even go to my step dev. So
Okay, so we'll take a look toward the end of the class so we can get everybody. So anybody here
okay.
having difficulty running, at least being at this stage, I'll try to help you guys out to make sure it's running. So now notice one thing, it stopped right here. And then the browser is also not closing. It's sort of just right there where you need. And now you can say, okay, what is the next step that I need to do? So the debugger will help you to automate faster because now you can stop it wherever you want to stop, right? And then take it from here. So if this page, you don't know what is the next step you need to do, you can stop it at your code and see what is really, where is stopping, and then from there you can go. And then debugger gives you a little bit more information like what already ran right here, like what are the steps that it ran, and you can kind of go over and see your variables and any sort of data that's been used for the previous step. Then if you go to console right here, it gives you the console output, like if you have any sort of printing, if you're printing anything at all, it'll show up right here. And you see the pause button right here. Now that your test is paused, you can actually play too. So that means resume the whole test. You don't want to just stop, you want to stop, see, and then resume, right? What is the alternative to that? The alternative to that is if you put like a sleep, right? But then sleep doesn't give you all of these options in terms of seeing where you are and seeing this data. But most importantly, you can just go ahead and run, continue to run, right? Sleep, you have to wait until the sleep is gone, right? Meaning if you say 50 seconds, the 50 seconds, you have to wait. Here, you don't, there is no time limit. Whenever you're ready, you can just click and resume. So I'll tell you guys why debugger is very, very important, because if a test breaks, you have to understand where is it breaking and why is it breaking. So now you're gonna go in and you're gonna debug. You're gonna put a debugger right next to the line where it's failing and see what happens before that, right? And then you make your judgment and fix the problem, right? So finding the problem, debugger helps you to say, you know, kind of guide you and say, okay, this is how you can find this problem until the last line of code that is running fine right before the fail. Just put a debugger and then see what happened to the application, where the application is, what is the expectation, whatever is the case for your side. All right, with that said, guys, now we are in a good situation with this framework. We're going to write some tests, and then don't worry about the page object for now, because I'm more worried about this step. Once we get to the step with the same framework, we're going to make sure that we're following the page object format. We're going to move some of the object here in this folder. And then lastly, I'm going to show you guys the runner as well, if you want to have a test runner. So why do we need test runner versus running this? Anybody want to find out? So if you can run it right here, why do we need a test runner? And test runner is necessary as well, right? It's not just like, oh, I can run it like this. Why do I need a test runner? Nobody has a question, then I will move on, since nobody wants to know this.
I would like to know why we need a test runner.
All right, good. At least one person wants to know. All right. So test runner is because, like, here on your computer, you have IntelliJ, right? And you can right click and run it. But then when you have just the code itself, right? And you don't have IntelliJ, what do? Right? So what kind of situation you will be in where you don't have IntelliJ, but you want to still run the test? When you run it from a server, for example, you have Jenkins, you want to run through the CI/CD process, and you don't even want to see the code. Your code gets pushed to the server, and the server then downloads all the dependencies and just runs it at the server level. Does the server need your IntelliJ? No, it doesn't need it. So for the purpose of running in Jenkins, for the purpose of running remotely instead of just running it locally, you 100% need the test runner, right? And then test runner also is needed because what if you have parameters or environment variable? So let's say you want to switch between different environment. You have stage and QA, and here you don't have an option to like, so I want to switch to another environment. No, test runner you can specify, because if your test is taking environment variable, then you can actually specify and say, okay, these are the variables that I'd like to use. You can also switch between browser through test runner, because when you create your browser, let's say class where you can have some if and else, and so okay, if user wants, let's say, and it'll be environment variable. If they want Firefox, then I want to run in Firefox. If they want Chrome, I want to run in Chrome. And these options has to come from the user, whoever is running the test. And here we have no way to enter and give that option to say, okay, run it in Chrome. It will just run always with default. But yes, we can still configure it if we click on run and edit configuration. And you have this window, you can say that I want to run with something, and this is where the environment variable is. You can say browser is equal to Chrome, and now it will run with Chrome, for example, and similar. But then these has to be configured on your framework level too, because right now, if you say browser is equal to Chrome, it has no knowledge of this. The framework doesn't know that what do you mean by browser is equal to Chrome until you have the implementation done on your framework. So most of the framework, when you join a company, will have that kind of implementation where you can switch between browser, you can switch between environment, and you can also pass test data as well. And in that case, they will say, oh, if you're running on IntelliJ, make sure you pass on these variables here, right? And you can just click on this, and then you can start adding variables for yourself. So before you can run it, you're gonna ask your coworker, let me see your IntelliJ, let me see your environment variable, let me see what kind of variable we need, right? And then you see it, and then you can go ahead and add it, and you'll be able to run by right-clicking. But this configuration is gonna be needed all the time. But if you and it's okay for locally. It's okay that you do this configuration. It's fine. It makes your life easy. But it's not okay because when you do it in the server, like when you run it remotely, you have no control. You're just pushing your code to the server and it runs it. It doesn't have IntelliJ, right? So how is it going to run? That's when you need that runner. So just keep that in mind. Yes, we're gonna also do runner, but for now we want to get comfortable with the IntelliJ feature and debugging so that we can write some tests more efficiently. Any other questions before we go to the next? All right. So the first step.
I have a quick question. Sorry, my mic was.
No
so
problem.
every time you start a new project, do you have to download the dependency? Like if it's IntelliJ, but you're starting a same, I'm doing something I finished, I want to do a new project. So you have to download all the dependencies again, or?
So when you say download that, I guess let me.
Yeah, the XML file.
Yeah, so when you, so if you absolutely have to, obviously, you don't want to create a new project just because you want to write new tests. So whenever you have a new project, this is the project, right? Then, and you have a pom.xml, you have to have your dependencies 100%, right? You have to put the XML files here, XML code snippet here in order to get Selenium or whatever you need, right? Whatever libraries you need. But what if you are adding new tests and this is the same framework? All you have to do, get this framework downloaded to your computer by cloning or maybe downloading. Once you have it, you know that you have a pom.xml, you just click on this hammer right here and you're all set. And that is one of the benefit of Maven that we talked about earlier classes.
Okay. And the driver part, you have to do it. Yeah, because I was like getting stuck and I was trying to do again and again and got tired of creating dependencies. So
yeah, I'm not actually understanding your question, because for this class, learning purposes, we're gonna create new projects. But in a work environment, we do not create new projects just because we want to write a new test. This project gets created once and that's it. You're stuck with it for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years until somebody decides to replace it.
No, I mean, when you say create a project, it says new window, or it asks you for the same file or a separate, you know. Okay, I'll show you later when I have a...
Are you talking about this option? 1 second. New project.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is like, if you click on file, new, and project, you're creating from scratch, totally from scratch.
Yeah.
And so basically your lead, your QA manager, whoever is going to be responsible for creating a framework, they're going to click on this and they're going to create, let's say, a new project. Right now, they're going to have to add their pom.xml. They're going to have to create some of these tests. And to give you some examples, okay, this is how we write our test. This is how we're going to follow the coding standard and all of that. After that, you and your coworkers are going to come in and start to write and increase the test automation. And at that point, this framework is going to be staying, right? It's something that framework is done once. That's it, right? So somebody's going to come in, build the framework, or you build the framework, for example, like you do it this much. And now over the years, you and your coworkers, you just add new things in order to just make it better and better and better. And it becomes more and more complex, but it becomes easier to run. It becomes, it has more test coverage, for example, because you guys decided to add tests. And that's the scenario, right, in a company. But dealing with, like, at least for learning purposes, you're going to be like creating a new project at least once or twice. But in the actual work environment, we don't just go ahead and create a new project. Now, even if you join a company and they give you a framework, you're going to be given a link. Okay, here is our repository, they will say, right? And then you get the repository link, and now you have to figure out how to download that and then put it into your IntelliJ, so that way you can look at the code and start to run your test. At that point, what is their expectation and what is your expectation? Their expectation is that, okay, you are able to clone the repository, meaning you're able to at least grab the code. That's their expectation. But their expectation is not that you're gonna go ahead and start running and writing tests right away. At that point, you're still getting yourself familiar with the code base. So now, as soon as you have that cloned up and you have your IntelliJ up and running, you have the code, you can start asking for KT and say, hey, I need knowledge transfer. I need to know where things are, right? Because every single framework will be unique. This is, for example, my framework, and I'm following everybody else in the internet. At this point, the same file hierarchy, this is the default setting, right? But then when you join a company, it might not be this, it might be like hundreds of files and things are in different places. So that's why you're going to need knowledge transfer. And then you can say that, hey, I would like to pair up and see like one test case, how you basically go about creating new steps, and that will help me. So now somebody's going to pair up with you and show you how to run the test, and also show you how to write a new test. From there, you have to now, like, on your own, you're going to be creating tests. And obviously that's going to be sample tests. Like, you're probably going to spend the first month just creating 1 or 2 sample tests to see if you feel comfortable. The second month, you're going to start to contribute and start to writing the real test. But in many companies, what happens is that the first 3 months to 5 months, or even 6 months, you may not be writing, test automation, because you need the experience on the application. And they will just say, okay, no problem. We will give you the time, so that way you can do manual testing for now, because that will give you some understanding about our product before you can write your test automation. Now, many companies there are other companies that will say, okay, next day automation. So So when you're in the market, I will guide you guys and say, hey, this interview, we're not going to take because these guys seems like they want somebody who's going to come in the next day and write automation. And then I'm going to tell you, okay, this company is decent and we're going to try to go with this company. Typically, a full-time job, meaning a permanent job, will not ask you to come and code the next day. So if it's a full-time job, I'm not going to object. But if there is a contract and these guys have 2 other subcontractors, now you got 3 companies involved. You know, there is some expectation, and they say, okay, you know what, here is an assessment. I want you to write some code and show me that you can do this work. That is just a, I would say, one of the symptom of this kind of environment where they will micromanage you and they will expect you to do magic on the next day. And we try to avoid those, because imagine like your first job and you're terrified because the next day, write me some code, right? You don't want that. So we don't want people to have bad experience on the first job. Otherwise, some people will, you know, some people will give up and they don't want to go back to IT anymore. Okay, with that said, guys, let's move on with writing tests. That, I hope that answered your question. If not, then, you know, you can clarify, ask me again. So first of all, I'm on the login page. So let's try to automate something, right? So let's do, for now, let's go with easiest to the hardest, right? So we got the Google right here, okay? So the first thing, I'm on the login page. So Google doesn't have login page yet, right? So, I mean, unless we go to Gmail, but let's say we're doing a Google like search box test. This is the same test that we did before, but we haven't done in Cucumber. So we'll do that right now. So I'm gonna remove this line from here, and okay, you know what? I'm gonna just say Google homepage. I'm gonna change that. So I'm on the Google, let's say search page or homepage, right? For example, right? So in this case, I will say driver.get. Anybody have any question related to like where is my path and things like that, or you guys are good?
Yeah, I was about to ask you that.
Okay. So the reason why I don't need a path here is because, like with Selenium, as long as you keep your driver to a specific location, it doesn't need path because it finds it by itself. So what I did earlier is that I downloaded my Chrome driver or upgraded my Chrome driver, and it put it into this specific path. So if you have a Mac, and this is only for Mac users, I don't know about the Windows actually. So if you have a Mac, and then if you put your driver to this specific path, basically put it into the bin, you don't even need to specify, it will automatically find it. Okay. And and how do you download it automatically? So first of all, you have to get something called brew in your Mac, and then you can just say brew install. And this is commands that you can probably learn. Chrome driver, and it will install Chrome driver automatically and put it into the expected path. But you can do it manually. You can download it yourself and find this path. Make sure you look for bin and put it in there, and you don't need that. You will not need to specify. Otherwise, I would have to specify. So I can still specify if I need to. System dot set property. I can still do that if I need. So in your case, if you do need it, go ahead and do that specification. For my case, I will not need it because I put it into the right place. But you know, some of you guys, most of you guys will have the same issue. So I'm going to go ahead and do it for all of you guys to make sure that we don't end up having framework that doesn't work. So I'm going to go ahead and put it for directory for drivers. And I'm going to specify that in there. Okay. Hold on, I'm going to download the driver. Okay, you can even use the driver manager too, right here. so you have to get the WebDriver manager. I think some of you guys use this. Once you have the WebDriver manager, if you do the setup, you don't need to even download anything. It will automatically do its thing, all right? But otherwise we have to do this one, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and let's say copy this.
Also, there is a dependency where we can download it in the pom.xml, and
Yeah.
then we don't have to also
Right.
edit.
Yeah, so there's many ways that people came with solutions. So this is the two different solutions that we can see. This is a hard-coded location. Hard-coded, the word when you hear hard-coded is not a good thing. So even if you hard it in an interview, are you gonna just hard code this and you're gonna say no? That is not recommended, right? Hard code is always a bad thing to do. In programming, hard coding is not good. Okay, so just keep in mind. And in this case, hard coding was necessary for us because that way you know exactly what's happening in the background, right? What's really happening. But now that we use this couple times and have an idea, if there is no other way, you guys can still use this, but there is better ways. So I did mine. One is that, okay, I'll just put the WebDriver to a specific directory. And then for you guys can try to use one of these methods. Also pom.xml have it, but this one is for importing WebDriver manager. So let's see if I can use this. Okay, so import WebDriver manager. I need to see the full example in GitHub. Okay, so somebody has this. So all you got to do is Chrome driver setup, right? So I'm gonna call this and see if IntelliJ is smart enough to let me download the WebDriver manager. So can't find it, right? So the next logical thing we need to do is that how do we install it? That's done. So we go back to their website. It doesn't have instruction. Okay, let's see. I think WebDriver Manager has pom.xml also. Let's see. Maven repository. So let's try to get this guy right there. So it looks like we do have WebDriver Manager right here. So I'll click the first one. And then I'll take the very latest, and then all I have to do is put that into my Maven repo. Okay, it's red. Let's go ahead and upload. Okay, so now once that is done, let me go back to the WebDriver Manager and see what is the recommendation. Okay, and it says we got to call this import. And that's it. Okay. So now if I do this running, it should work with this one. But for me, guys, I wouldn't have an idea because mine is already at the right path. So either way for me is gonna work, but you gotta give this a try. You need this import and you need this specific line, and then you're gonna be fine for Chrome driver. So let's go ahead and run this real quick just to make sure that it's working fine. And then we go from there. But one thing that you guys just noticed, I no longer have this. So this is highlighted. What could it be? So if you're using IntelliJ, what we just did with our previous changes, we updated the plain English back there, right? So right here we updated. It says now I am on the home page. Okay. So at this point, I will go ahead and copy that and paste it here. It won't work. but IntelliJ helps you by saying, okay, I'm going to list everything that you have. So and now it gives me all of the list of the steps. So this is just to make your life easier. Instead of copying and pasting, going and searching what you need, it gives you right in front of it. So we'll go ahead and run this to begin with, and then see if it works for first, and then we will write the next step. Okay, so it went to Google. The next thing that we want to do is write to search something. So when I search for, now there is a small twist here. When I search for, I don't know what I will be searching for. So I'll put basically quotation here. That means I would like to be able to pass anything in here and reuse that if I need to, right? And this anything could be anything, right? So that's why I'm not going to specify it. And I'm going to click on create my step definition. And then I'm going to put it into my same file. And once I do that, you'll see where it says, oh, it's a string. It doesn't really gives you like the way that we wrote the quotation. The quotation is actually a string. So in this case, we know this is going to be a string argument. So the argument, you can give it a name. This specific temporary variable name, you can give whatever name you want. You can also leave argument 0. That's not a problem. This is by default, IntelliJ is being decent and helping you, saying, okay, this is the first argument. And you can choose to use this if you want to. But I want to be more and more relative to what I'm making changes to. So for example, if I pass something on here, right, that becomes my text, right? So what I will do, I will just name it as text, okay, because this is what I would like to pass on. The next thing is I'm going to do driver dot, and I think we have to put our driver outside. Web driver. And then we'll isolate it later, WebDriver driver, and then we don't need this anymore here, and then we're good to go. Okay, so then WebDriver, and then we have to say find element in this case, by dot name, for example, and we have to go back to Google and say, okay, what is the name of this? Because this is where we're typing, right? And guys, this is the time to ask questions also, so feel free. So name is Q. Okay, so I'll take that for now and then use that. But how do I know name Q is unique? Right, and that's something that we have to test, right? We have to test it right here. You do command find, and you copy this line right here, the whole line, and put square bracket and done. You see, this is unique. This is how you test it. All right, so once we targeted that, we want to do send keys, right? And we are familiar with send keys because we used it a couple of times. Here, let's say you want to search for a specific string, but you don't want to be writing this yourself, right? You don't want to be writing that here, like, okay, I want to search for MacBook, whatever it is. You want that information coming directly from the step that you're using, so that way you have the reusability. So what you're going to do, the temporary variable, you're going to just pass it on. So whatever variable, whatever the user or whoever is going to be using this step is passing on as a string will be here, and then followed by here. So it will be typing it right there. So now if I type, or now if I write anything, let's say MacBook Pro, and I will run this test just to show you guys, and then okay, so it did type MacBook Pro, and basically whenever we want to make our step reusable, and that's the way that we go, right? This is the one way. The other way to go is if you enter, let's say, let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and the same step, I'm gonna write it again. And this time I'm gonna say like in Google. So this is a new step at this point. I'm gonna dry run it and show you guys the other recommendation. There's two ways to do this. And okay, and then there is, okay, this is one recommendation. Okay, it's the same exact recommendation that it's giving me, like string, right? Okay, that's fine. But if this was int, it will be like int. So if this was a number, let's see, or what recommendation it gives us. The 90.
How do we change it to string to int? Int.
So it'll be like as simple as saying int. But let's see if you dry run what happens, because this is the way that it gives you. So you see integer right there. You got the int, and then you have to specify integer. So this is where the Java hits, right? But here Cucumber says, okay, you simply write int and we're good to go. Okay, so you already learned the integer and you learned the string, and that's the only thing you're probably going to be deal with here in the step, because we don't need to do anything else, right? Because everything else that you're going to be passing on here is going to be either integer or a string. Even if you do a string and let's say it has decimals and it is a huge number, for example, let's say, and you want to do calculation, that calculation has to be done. So once you take that as a string text, for example, and you do, you take the text and then you have to convert it into whatever format that you want in order to do the calculation. We do not, or at least Cucumber do not support data types of different kinds, right? You can pass on only certain things. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so we had the two steps. I'm gonna get rid of this one since it's similar. So now you guys have to make a lot of decisions in terms of field, and it's always going to be custom decisions. So as soon as, and remember, when we write test automation, we are mimicking human. So at no point you should be thinking like, okay, this is something like we're just going and doing in the back to do the testing, because otherwise your test becomes invalid. We don't want to test as a machine. We want to be mimicking the human. So what do you think a human will do after they enter this information here? And that's something that you have to think about, because that is the next step that you need to do. So you already entered the text. What is the human, do you think, will do next? Right?
Enter.
Like,
press enter, right? And that's the thing. So if the human is going to press enter, we got to do the same thing. Otherwise your test, and somebody explained to me, why do you think the test becomes invalid if you just go ahead and try to do everything without mimicking the human? And it defeats the purpose of our test automation if you try to bypass that kind of. Anybody has an idea? In the meantime, I write the next line.
Why it invalidates the test then? Because the whole purpose of this is to make it responsive to the user and make it user friendly. So we have to go by it, the understanding that this is all for the user. Right.
So imagine like you wrote your test and it's always happy and healthy, and these are the tests that actually developers write. You know, they write tests for their code, and it's called unit test. But why do they even need QA and QA automation, or even like us, right, coming in and do the testing? It's because that is not human. The other side, whatever testing they did, they're just on the back testing the code, and they do write a lot of tests on their side, but those tests is not testing as a human. It's just basically testing the code itself. So if we do that, that means we're duplicating their work. We're basically saying, okay, we're gonna test this, but we're gonna basically just go and test the code. And so we're duplicating the work, number one. Number two is that now a human user is using the application, and now they're having problem. Then they're gonna say, wait a minute, we had tests for this, what happened? And you go and find out, it's like, oh yeah, but the test doesn't need hovering, for example. So if you have to For example, like right here, there is a hover and it changes, and now you can click on it, for example, and somehow you don't even have to hover click, you just went there programmatically and tested it. Now the human comes here and then hover, nothing happens, and they cannot even click. But then your program, your test automation can at least go there because you just don't care about, you know, the hover option, you don't care about clicking option, you just basically directly visiting here by seeing the inner mechanism, for example, right? So that kind of defeats the purpose, because now the human comes here and having the problem, and you're gonna say, wait a minute, so all my test is gonna be invalid now because it doesn't really try to do actual click. And Selenium tries, like if you say I want to click there or click here, Selenium is actually not bypassing that. It's going out of his way to mimic the human, right? So just keep in mind, Selenium, it's basically writing, whoever are the Selenium developers, and these developers are like all over the world because it's a open source library. Their main goal is to make sure that we don't want to bypass. But what if you have a situation where you have to bypass the human or human kind of interaction? We do have that, right? So Selenium do have something called execute script. You can actually execute JavaScript in order to bypass that human touch or human interaction, is because there will be times where you want to test something and human touch is not important there, right? You just want to get the test done, and that step is not part of your test. That step is just, you want to get through it sooner and get to the next step in order to do your testing, and in that case it is valid. So the discretion is up to you. You have to use it from based off of your understanding of the application and what you are testing. What is your goal of the test that you're creating? And anything on the steps, you can care a little bit less. But when you are going to the actual test page where you're validating something, you want to make sure that you follow as much as possible in terms of human interactions. Okay, so we entered and we basically, if I go back to the, okay, so this step is done, right? We enter the text and we click enter, right? The next portion comes in is assertion. Container, maybe on the search. So what happens if I, so yeah, I searched it here, but what I want to validate is that if I search for a MacBook, it should show up in the search, but not this. If I say I want to check the whole page, if MacBook Pro showed as a search result, then what's going to happen? Your test will never fail, because even if you typed it, it'll still show here, right? And now your test is going to find the text here and say it passed. So we want to exclude this area, and we want to say in this area, if you find anything like MacBook Pro, then we want to call our test pass. Okay, so now first of all, I'm going to type this in to see how it looks like. We always have to make these kind of choices. Oh, it's right here. Okay. And then you can see a few things that you can do. You can look into this area, but this is ads. What if there is no ad, right? There will be, maybe the ad portion doesn't work in testing if you work for Google. So few things you can do. You can actually look at the search result and say, if it's greater than this number. So we're going to do some calculation. You know what? Let's go with this. If the search result is greater than, I think, billions, right? If I'm not mistaken, 1,330,000,000 and some numbers. So as long as it has 1 billion result for MacBook Pro, we will call that a success. Okay, so let's do that. So how do I get this number and do some calculation? We're going to get this as a string. Okay, that's how we're going to get this. So first I have to see how do I retrieve this number from here to my test. I'm going to click on this, and it has an ID, luckily. Wow, that's great. So now you can actually use an ID and to say, I want to grab this number. So there's multiple things we will be doing. Okay, so, and then instead I'm going to say, and then I should see search result at least a number, right? So at least like this much, at least something, like at least let's say 1 million. So 1,000,000,000,000, whatever. We'll fix that number. I don't know if I have the right ones, but our validation is that then I should see a search result at least this number, right? Go ahead and create the sub definition and done, right? So this took that as a string, totally fine by me. I will convert that into an integer, but it shouldn't be an integer because it's a huge number, right? What's gonna happen? What is the limit of integer in Java, guys?
Like 2 million, 2.9 million. I believe.
Integer. Let's see. Okay, so we got, is it trillion?
Yeah, that is trillion.
Trillion,
No,
right?
that is
Okay,
billion. I'm sorry, that's billion.
billion. Okay, but we have search result trillion. So then your task is not gonna work because this number is smaller than the other one. I don't know if it's billion. Let me just look at the other 1 second. Whew, look at the big number. Okay. How many zeros? One.
That would be a
2,
billion,
3.
so 1.33 billion. So it would actually fit in the integer.
Okay, if it fits, we will use integer. But if not, then it will give us a error message anyway, right? So we'll just handle it when we get that error message. But yes, you can only go up to so much when it comes about integer. This is the number that you'll be dealing with, right? And then after that, you can do double and long. There are other data types that we have to use. But let's see if we can get away with using integer. So first we gotta get that number. So I'm gonna say driver dot and then find element. We have to find element, right? By in this case ID, because that's what we have. And then ID was, let's see. Oh no, this is not the one. Okay. Whatever. Anything will do. I just need the ID for this. So okay. Okay. So we're gonna get this, and we're gonna say get text because, and when does get text method will work? Okay. So just keep in mind whenever you have something like this, get text will work. But if this is a value, it says value is equal to this, then it will not work. Get text will not work. Get text will work when it doesn't have anything, any attribute name, right? Because this is a text. But if it had like, let's see if there is a value. But if it says like value is equal to this, then you have to use another method, and I will go over that. So now that we got this, we're gonna use get text and get text, and it will actually work. And that's it, right? Now I want to see my text and then take it from there, like before I can even work on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this string, and I'm gonna say search result, right? Count or something like that, count. So you give it in a relative name. I'm gonna print that so that way we can system dot out dot println. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it real quick and see it for ourselves before we want to make any more changes. All right, so let's see. So notice it printed two things that we are trying to print testing. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this. Okay, and I'm gonna write it somewhere here with a nice, so test started. And you can say something like this. Please wait. Right, and we do a little bit better messaging. And then you can always say something like this. So you know exactly where the test starting. And this is just to make it a little bit more prettier. But we'll see next time when we run how it looks like. All right, so then we got the whole thing. We got the commas too, right? This comma right here. We got the text. How do we now grab only the number and we don't want any commas or anything? And also, we don't want this number too. We want to exclude this number. Any idea, guys? Let's see. Let's come up with some ideas, guys. You guys did some Java before. This is purely converting and then cutting and chopping and getting exactly what we need, right? So think about the patterns, what we can do, right? What are you guys thinking? Let's see.
The only thing I can think of is just writing the number, the exact number in.
Writing it
And you
yourself.
don't get, yeah.
No, but then your
Defeats the
test
purpose,
becomes,
right?
yeah, it becomes manual. So this is a string, right? And obviously, like every test we write, we're gonna face challenges and we're gonna get this through. So this is, as we know, this is string. Okay, fine. Then what I can do is that I can chop this string into different pieces. So give me a pattern. Where should I chop my string into?
After about and after the.
But what is the separator? What is the, like, where, at what point I want to chop? Because when I ask my program to chop it, can I say,
Just before one, I guess.
but it has to be like some sort of, because if you say about, right, it'll chop and it'll have two different pieces, right? Now, once you get two different pieces, it is still useless. Now I have still this number here. I cannot just grab the number. Here's the thing, right? If I wanted to just grab the number from the whole string, there is a method in Java where I can just say any number I want to grab. But that is not the right thing to do here, because if I say any number I want to grab, it will also give me the seconds, right? Oh, never mind. This is actually, okay. This is coming from the cucumber. This is not part of the string. Okay, that's fine. So now, in this case, and I'm gonna give you guys two solutions, and this is not because we want to take extra time. This is because this is a learning opportunity. I have one method to say, okay, and this is regular expression to say I want to grab any number. I just want to grab the number, ignore the string, ignore anything else, right? So then it will just get me the number, and it will even remove this. The other option I have is that I want to splice it. I want to basically slice it everywhere there is a space. So it will slice it here, one slice, and then you will slice this here, two slice. So now we have 1, 2, and 3 elements, 3 different elements in an array, and it will return an array. Once we get the array, we want to get the second option of the array, second element of the array. So now we have the number, but we still left with these commas. Then we can just replace. We can just use the replace method and say we want to replace this with nothingness. Okay, this anywhere there is a comma, we want to replace with nothing. So that will basically remove the comma, and then we have to still take this value and say we want to convert that into an integer. See, like what is the process? Like how many things I have to do. But if I just simply use grab me just the number, that's the only thing I need, is because I realize that there is no other number except for this. So everything that you do in terms of choosing what kind of tool you will be using from the Java side, the determination will come from what you are dealing with. Okay, it's never going to be like, okay, this is how it should be. But there is always going to be more than just one way to handle. So now I'm gonna show you, like any other developers, let's say you want to just grab only numbers. I can't remember the regular expression of that. I used it maybe like so many times, but I still don't remember because regular expression is hard to remember. So I'm gonna say Java get numbers or int, let's say int from string, only int from string. So what is the suggestion here, right? So let's see. So it's saying if you do parse int, that's enough. That is enough, and it will give you the int. The other thing, the other options is that, like people are giving, and this is 88, it says replace all. This regular expression I was talking about is that go and replace anything but number. This may be a good one for us to use. This will work 100%. It will basically, see, this is the input and this is the output. So it does work at least. And then we have the parse int will do the same thing, right? So a lot of people are doing, you see next int, and there's another method right here called next int. And there is another one. This is actually just going above and beyond bare bone, meaning you decided to take one character at a time and then converting that into, an integer, basically. And then there is another one. So you're going with great length here. And in the interview, sometimes they will probably ask us to say, okay, I don't want no method. Don't use the easy way, but give me like, write just code to show me how you'll do this. But for this time, we're going to use this one, first int, and we're going to replace everything with the, so we're still using two methods. One is to convert into int, and then before that, we're doing replace everything with this, okay? So let's grab this regular expression, and we're going to use replace all. Okay, so now we're going to say, we're going to create a new string, number get nums, right, only. So we're only getting numbers is equal to, this time search result, and then dot, what was this method name? Actually, it's called replace all. And there is a replace method, just replace, and there is a replace all method. So we have to use the replace all method. It does take two parameters, and those parameters is basically regular expression. This is regular expression right here to say, and we can simplify it by using, okay. So here is giving us recommendation, but I'll tell you what's happening here. Because we have double quotation, it needed the extra escape, but we can actually go ahead and follow the recommendation from the, and we can just do single quote with /d. But let's see how it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and print it out and see. And let's see how that works before, and we want to see it physically before we move forward. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. I'm going to click this. Okay, so notice like how it looks nicer a little bit. Test started, please wait. And then we go down there and you see like it gave us, oh, okay, this is the exact thing that I was suspecting, right? So we're gonna have to do we're gonna have to basically split it. We don't want this 59 seconds somewhere, right? You see the 59 seconds came in too. I thought it was part of the cucumber, but this is part of the actual, yeah, the actual string. Okay, so we're gonna basically cut it everywhere there is a space, and we're gonna take the second one. That's what we want to do.
So we can slice it after we get this numbers, right?
So think about this way, like it's easier to say anywhere there's a space, I wanna cut it. I wanna cut it and make it into a new section, right? It's like a magnet, right? You break it into a specific areas and they become their own. So in this case, they become their own string. And so we're gonna say everywhere there is a space. So there is a space right here, and there is a space right
We
here.
use a split message, right? For each space. A split dot message, something like that.
Yeah. So we're gonna use split method, but before you use a split can work with anything, right? You give it and it will work. Okay, it takes a string as an option and then it follows what you gave it, right? So the question here is that what is the option that you want to tell your split method to use? You're gonna say the reason why I'm asking you guys to use a space because this have characters and then here we have a space, so we can already divide this one with this one, right? So now we already have two isolated element, and then we have another space. Then we can also take the result, and then we have a space. So we can clearly split it into 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 element here, and we can say, you know what? I don't care about these last 2 or 3 elements. I don't care about this one. As long as I know which element I need to grab, I am fine. So in this case, if I split it and it gives me an array, what is the index value of this one? Let's see if you guys remember. All right, what is the index value, guys? Take a second to think about.
The index value will be 1.
Okay, anybody disagree with this?
I have another question.
Go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, the number you got, it has like 3 extra numbers. So can't we just divide it by 1,000 and it will give us the actual number?
But what about the 5, 9? This is not even part of this. I need to already added. So I got this number, and you're saying I should
if
divide
I
it by 1,000?
divided by 1,000, the 59 goes away. 059 goes away.
Okay. And what? I guess like, will that be true for any time I'm dealing with any other number, right? Because
unless it's more than 10 seconds, it will be good.
Okay, so that's the uncertainty we don't want. What if it's like a minute, right?
All right.
We don't want the uncertainty here, right? We want an actual predictable number because this is going to become our actual result, right? Now, so let's split it because we talked about a lot of split and you said that this is going to be index of 1. Anybody here disagrees before I move on? So that way we can hear two sides of the story here, right? Somebody will say, okay, no, this is going to be 1 and this is going to be 2. Anybody have this kind of idea, or are we good? Everybody agrees with him. Okay, yeah, that's true, because index value, if you select the first item here and the second item here, index always starts from 0. So therefore the second item is going to be 1. Okay, so let's do the splitting. Okay, so before I split, I have to give it a name. So I can say, like, let's say string, and it becomes an array. And then I can say, like, I don't know, split it or something. I don't know, something like okay. Okay, I said split it. Splitted string is equal to something, right? Splitted string is equal to this guy. Okay, this is the person, this is the variable we're splitting at this point, and we're gonna say dot. Oh, we're gonna say dot split, and it says I need a string. And now I'm gonna say, okay, split it wherever there is a space, single space. And that's it. That's all I set here right here. Now I'm gonna print this to show you guys how it looks like. And then we move on from that. And okay. Okay, so because this is an array, we cannot just go ahead and print it like this. We have to use a loop to grab all of the element, because it's not just more than it's more than just one, right? So right here. So let's see what is the second item looks like within this within this splitted. So we talked about the second item, so let's do one. Okay, and I'm gonna give it a nice touch here so that we know the second item is something like that. Let's go and run it one more time. Some of you guys, when you install your IntelliJ, just be careful. You have a community version, you have a paid version. Once you get used to the paid version, you're gonna feel like community version has less items and stuff, but we want to get used to the community version, because at work, this is something that we're gonna be using. Okay, so then the second item is this. So it grabbed it, but it still have the commas at this point. The second item is this. Okay, so far, I think we're off to a good start. Then I can do is that I can take the first, this second item, and I can say, now I want to replace all of these non-digits, which is this and this, and I want to replace them with actually nothing. Okay, and then once that is done, then I want to only convert that into a number. So we'll talk about the number, but let's see. This is still gonna be a string at this point. So let's go ahead and run it again. All right, and let's see the printout. So you see now we are getting the exact value with absolutely certainty to know that if this number becomes greater, it's not going to be part of my result. Okay, so that's great. Now we have to convert that into an integer, right? So before we can do any sort of, and I need to make sure that I have like expected result also, right? So where is the expected result coming from, guys? Here. Anybody want us to? Okay. So now what makes sense here is that before we move on to expected result, is that since we're getting numbers only, this name is relevant to numbers. So I'm gonna put the whole thing into, I'm gonna replace the whole thing. Basically, after the replacement, I wanna make the whole thing an actual integer. So I have to use the method for that, int integer dot. There's something called, let's see, is it parse int right there. So it takes in string and then it will convert into integer. So let's see if it changes anything, if it reduces any numbers or anything because of the limit. So now this is a pure integer. Okay, let's see. We got it opening, we got it closing. First int, the whole value. This, but then this guy has no closing. What is the deal? 1 second. First int. So this is what I want to use, and okay, so let's see. That's fine. Oh, so the whole thing has to be inside. Okay. Let me just go ahead and place it in here. Okay, so now it's not upset. I guess it is something related to the way I typed. Okay. Okay. Guys, question for you guys. Why is it red? if there is a hint on
You're
the string,
missing third bracket next to the string.
no,
Oh.
there's a hint. I'm just displaying for you guys. There's a hint right there.
Because hereby integer is not inside the double quotation, or string is always double inside the double quotation. It's wrapping for
No, this is returning a string, 100%, not a problem. But then if we are converting this string into a int, but we're saying we want to create a variable of string, and that's where the problem. Okay, so it is an int, it is a true int at this point. And now I can go ahead and, oh, there is an S right here somehow. Okay, so now I can run it and I'll be fine, right? So let's see, now we can do math. Now we can actually, now that we have a number, we can do some math operation. But before that, we wouldn't be able to do math operation. So now, if you have this in mind right now to say, wait a minute, we went through so much just so that we can calculate this number is greater than like a 1 billion, right? Do you have that kind of question? Or if you say like, oh yeah, it makes sense, we have to go through and do all of this. Why going through so much trouble just because we want to take a string, we want to take the second item of the string from here, convert it into, and remove these guys right here, and then convert that into a true number. Okay. Why doing all of that? Is it necessary or is it unnecessary? Anyone?
Is it to simplify the code so that let's say you do miss a comma or something like that, not you personally, but someone else misses a comma, it'll mess up the code?
We want to be as dynamic as possible. We don't want to stick to like hard-coded situations. So for example, we don't want to tell it like manually, like, okay, comma is going to be exactly after the first character. And then there will be 3 characters followed by, and then comma will be in the next one, because that becomes too chatty. Like we're now very specific about it. So if something changes, if this number is no longer 1 billion, then our test is going to fail because now comma is going to be all over the place. Comma is going to be different locations. So instead, we used a method to say, okay, wherever you find a comma, just go ahead and remove and keep only the, so basically, this regular expression means non-digit, okay? This is basically numeric value. So you're saying any non-numeric value, remove it with nothingness, right? And then we're saying, and before that, we're basically saying that, okay, we had to make a conscious decision that it's always going to be the second item. So somehow Google changes their code and it says, it basically say the result is this, and they change the whole verbiage, then our test is going to break. Our test is not going to pass because we're taking the second item. Right now it's going to say, I cannot convert this into a, an integer because it's not a number. And as soon as it goes to line number 34, it will remove everything and it will have an empty string. And this guy will say, wait a minute, how am I going to convert this into a number? It's empty. Is because this guy replaced everything that is not a number. So all of that issues we're going to face if Google decides to change this specific line on their search result display. So we depending on this string to say, okay, the second one is going to be a number 100%. That's it. So we have to make some sort of determination when we make some decisions and move forward with the solution. Our solution should have some sort of prefix or some sort of dependency there, right? Otherwise you cannot be very vague and always say, okay, if this and if that, it'll be too much code that you'll be writing. So hopefully that makes sense. So now we can say something, for example, we can do an if and else here just to see, right? If get number only, so this is your expected result, right? So let's say we change this actual result in int if actual result is more than what? We can say it is more than this number, this and this. So we don't care about 33 billion, right? Is it trillion, 1 trillion, right? Or
Billion.
billion, okay. So you don't care about the 33 million. You're giving the flexibility to Google to say, okay, at least you give me 1 billion and I will consider this search result as working fine. Okay. And that's what you did, right? So now you can say, like, for example, system.out. And now in this case, you can just go ahead and before you do assertion and we're writing a message so we can kind of see it through and say, okay, the result displayed more than expected value. And what is our expected value? Plus, let's say, expected value. And it's red. Somebody help me with this. Because I never defined that expected value, right? Okay. And then we should be good to go. And this is not outside, this is inside, and I'm done. So if it passes, then this is what's going to happen. And we want to also maybe close the browser after this because it's keeping opening so many browsers for me, but it's okay. I will manually close. Okay, so now remember that I should see the result at least this value, right? But it should go from here, not from over there, right? So what I will do is that I will use this argument. So I'm gonna say expected value, right? So now this expected value needs to be an int. So an in number, right? In actual number. So I can say something like I can say %t and I can say my expected value. And then we have to say expected value. So this is one. First, I go back over there, replace this one. And then I can say here. Do you see anywhere where I'm writing any hard-coded number? There is no number here, but we're comparing two different numbers, right? We can even say that the result displays more than expected value. And this, and I will say something like this. What is our actual value here? Actual value, actual resulting number. We take that, put it right there. Okay, let's go ahead and run it real quick and see what's happening. So these are some calculations that you may come across and do at work, but the ability to go out there and Google it and find how to convert and know exactly what needs to be done. I don't need you to know the code. Coding, you can find it online. You can read it and find what method that you need to use. But being able to know that what needs to be done next and understand what it is that you have to do is the actual, that gives you the ability. Otherwise, you will be like, oh, what am I going to do? This is too hard, and you will not even try. Okay, so let's see. So what's happened here? The result displays more than expected value, which is this is your expected value, and actual value was this. And that's it. This is just printing simply that. So, but then we have literally no number from line number 30 to all the way 39. It's all variable. Okay. Any question, guys, before we move on to the next test case? No questions? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and implement something called and I close the browser because this is bothering me. I have too many browsers open. I'm gonna write this. And I close the browser. What do I have to do next? I can run it and then create, or I can just go ahead and have my IntelliJ tell me what needs to be done. And that's it. So here I'm gonna say driver dot close. What is the difference between driver dot close versus what is the difference between driver dot quit?
Quit will close all the windows that open by the driver, and the close will just close the active windows. Yes.
Active and current windows.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So now if I run this, it will work. But now there is something that I can show you guys, which we did the last class anyway. So okay, let's get rid of this. So now the same test case, what if I want to run not only MacBook, I want to run for maybe like 20, 30, 40, even hundreds of items, right? To do Google search result test. I'll take the same test, okay, and then I'm gonna parameterize this. So you guys need to understand what parameterization is. So outline, so scenario outline in Cucumber, and we talked about it last time, guys. It allows you to parameterize. 1 second, I'm gonna have to turn on my AC. Okay, so it allows you to parameterize, but then right off the bat, it's upset. So instead, look, I verify that user can search for multiple. Right, so that's one, and then whatever. MULTI. Whatever. So now look at this keyword. It's red, right? And it's because it needs, you see, create a section, for example. So this is what it needs. Now it's no longer red, but I want to be able to pass the parameters. So the first item that I want to parameterize is MacBook Pro. So let's call this as a search item, right? Item. The second one, let's call it as result expected. Result, right? And done. So this is the two item. Okay, so you guys can think of some items that you want to search. And maybe for this test, we want to keep it like a specific number, but it's okay. We can always change that because these two will be parameterized. So now, if I want to use my search item, all I have to do is that take this guy from here. And that's it. Okay, so now we can say MacBook or whatever you want to say. So that's a MacBook Pro. I'm sure iPhone will have like 12, whatever, will have a lot of results. And then what else can you think of? Like, I don't know.
AirPods.
AirPods, right? But it doesn't have to be, okay, find something that is less in Google. So let's see, google.com, and we'll find something, let's say, that will have be very specific. Few results, like less than 1,000, maybe like less than at least 1 billion, right? So anything that you guys can think of, I can't think of nothing.
Refurbished MacBook.
That's gonna be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I'm looking for a smaller number.
Smaller.
Something very specific, right? So maybe like a company, right? That brand new company or something.
Is this a specific car? Would that work?
Yeah.
A 1969 Chevy Impala.
1969. Chevy Impala. Let's see. Okay, so it has okay, how many? All right, so that's not bad. So 9,940,000, which is okay. We'll take this number. So would you be okay to say, as long as it has 9 million, we're happy with the results? At least Google is doing its job. So we can say, we can even take the exact number, not a problem, but then maybe tomorrow there is a less. but at least we can assume that there shouldn't be less than this. Tomorrow there could be more because somebody decided to write an article, right? So we can keep the exact number, not a problem. That, and then the other guys right here, MacBook Pro, I know that should be at least this number because that's what we had. And the iPhone 12, I'll keep it the same because they are pretty much relative to this. And what happens if it's not showing that number? So I want to basically have some sort of mechanism to say it's not the case. And we can do similar. We can see the result displays more than expected. So I'm going to say less than expected, and then it will still give us the same message. So it'll be helpful for us to see it. So notice like how I'm keep doing this and making it nice and nicely formatted. There is a shortcut for this. It's Option Command L for MacBook users, and then for Windows users, you have the window button. Command, is it command? I don't know if you guys have command, and then L. Let's run it. How many times is this test gonna run?
3 times.
3 times. Okay. So now you guys understand parameterization, yes?
Yes.
The second, close the browser, and a third, okay. All right, let's see. Oh, crazy, okay. I think the closing the browser was an issue, but I didn't see it closing. Okay, so it says for input string this, something happened, okay. More than expected value. So this was fine. Let's look at the second scenario, iPhone 12. Four seven four zero 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 zero. So that might be a really, really big number. Guys, remember we talked about it in the very beginning, right? So the iPhone 12 probably gave us like a huge number.
Yeah,
That
it
it
gave
doesn't
4
know.
billion.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the problem. Let's choose something else unless you guys want me to work on fixing it. So if I just convert everything to double, then it solves the problem of huge numbers, but it also works with smaller numbers, right? So all I have to do is just parse int. I can say parse double, so I can show you guys. So Java convert to double. So right here, all I gotta do is parse double. That's it. And so we can do that and it'll be fine. But I was hoping for a smaller number. Okay. Let's do a smaller number. You guys get the picture. So let's see something like,
Right, Pomsky.
what is it?
A Pomsky, it's a type of dog. Pomsky.
Yeah, SK. Okay. That's not a lot. That's good. Speed is for this. And I was wondering why is it failing, but okay. But we can always handle it this way. Like we wanted to deal with int first. That's what we did, but then we will handle it the other way. Close browser probably didn't work. Let me see. Driver.close didn't work for some reason. We can just use quit and we'll restart it, but let's see this time. Maybe there's an error.
You have to change the expected result too, right?
Yeah, but it'll pass. Tell me why. Oh no, it will not pass. Okay. Yeah. Let's purposely make it fail. It's okay. Okay. So let's see. The first one is good. The second one, AC less than expected value, it was only this, right? And this is the purpose we're making it fail so we can see the failure. So now notice what happened here. We got 3 scenario paths. Why is it not failing the third one? Even though it's giving us the right message, it is less than expected value. What happened there? What it is that we're missing in our test?
There's no assertion.
There is no assertion. But notice one thing, if I go to my pom.xml, I only have the cucumber and I only have Selenium. So if I want to put an assertion, what do I need?
Test ng or JUnit.
Yep, either one should be fine. I'll take the JUnit. 12 looks good to me. 12,000 people using it. All right. I'll let it load. And then that's it. So we got that loading. We now have to put an assertion. So everything is fine. We did this, but this is just an unnecessary, a lot of unnecessary stuff, but we can probably leave it as this because it's giving us a nice message. But we have to put an actual assertion. So expected, insertion. Assert from JUnit. Okay, so do that. Dot. In this case, which one makes sense? Assert equal makes sense or assert true makes sense? You guys give me an answer. Some of you guys should know already, but what makes sense here? Which one should I use? Assert true or assert equal?
True.
Why?
Because then it'll, if the numbers are less than or greater than the value for the expected result, it'll show the truth. It'll show that, yeah, the number is less than.
Okay, but if you say, if you want to compare, let's say, assert is equal to expected result, right? Then the problem is, what if somebody tomorrow decides to write something about your whatever search string is, which is, let's say, Pomsky. Pomsky, somebody also wrote a new article. They love Pomsky, right? And now your test is going to say this is not equal to that. So you're basically writing a test that is going to be always problematic, right? Instead of making a smart decisions. So that's why we want to say, okay, there is a chance that it can increase, but there may not be a chance to decrease that specific number. So we can always think that way, but the decision is yours based on understanding the application. So if I work for Google and I know that the articles or whatever it is, Google doing their indexing, the index value doesn't change they don't remove that index until, let's say, a year later, 1 year later, they don't reduce the number, then I know that at least my test is going to be fine for a year until those websites are down and then Google updates the index again. But there is a chance that Google will add those as they're coming. New website comes in, they're adding it to their index and then combining it toward the search results. And so that's likelihoodness made me gave me this decision, or at least we decided, because yes, we want to make sure our test is going to be very reliable, but at the same time, there might be a time where we have to go and update this test, and it doesn't have to be anytime soon, right? And the idea came because of the understanding how Google works, right? Google search index works. So if you work for the company, obviously you'll know, right? So you'll have to make decisions based on that. Sometimes you can ask engineers and say, wait a minute, this number right here. If I just test a round value, is that fine? Do you want me to check for exact value or round value? And that's what we're doing right now. We're just rounding it up. Okay, so assert equal probably is the one here. So, sorry, true. Assert true. Boolean condition. So when you say Boolean condition, you want to say actual result has to be more than expected result. Okay, that's exactly what you're saying. So now if I run it, Chomsky should fail and it should tell us exactly what happened. Right, let's see. At least one test should fail, right? Let's go in the result to right away. Two failed and one passed. Okay, so let's see which two failed. So this one failed, we expected this, right? And it says that result is at least this, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Verifying. That's why JUnit is better. Sorry, TestNG is a little bit better. It doesn't give me a whole lot of information. It just says steps failed. It doesn't say what happened. But can we add what happened? Maybe we'll just add that ourselves. The search allows us to, I believe we can edit here. There we go. Okay. And I can say failed test, failed. And then I will go ahead and say next. Expected value more than this number, right? So plus this but found actual value right there. So you're saying this and then okay. So you said test failed. So this is our custom message, guys. So if something happens, it will give us this. If you're using JUnit, expected value more than expected value to be. Okay. Okay, more than this, but found this. Okay, that's fine. So let's run it one more time, and then now it will probably give us a better picture, like what happened. Okay, Chomsky failed, I believe. Okay, so let's look at it real quick. The first one expected more than the result displayed more than okay, this passed, not a problem. Let's go to the next one, failed. Now it's just the test failed and giving us a better, picture here, right? Expected value to be more than this, but found this, which is much more easy to read. And then that's it, right? And then the last one is the display, blah, blah. So only one failed, which is great. And that is something that we expected, okay? We probably have to put a space right here. Yeah, more than, see the space is missing. So we just added the space right there. All right, guys, any questions?
Too much.
Any questions, guys? All right, so it seems like we're getting this right. So now you guys, those that are blocked, I'll go ahead and display my POM real quick, pom.xml. You should have exactly dependency for Cucumber. You should have this, okay? You should have this by itself, it'll work for you. We're using regular JUnit here, just regular JUnit with Cucumber. And then we're using the WebDriver. So if you want the WebDriver manager, you have to put this one in there. And then you will have to call this specific line in order to make it work without having to have any sort of drivers. We don't need this. I'll go ahead and remove. Okay, and then what I will do is that that at least we're going to leave it at that for today. The next class, what I want to see is that everyone here have, at least up until this framework, at least we wrote these 2 tests, okay, before we go to the next step and make this framework more maintainable. So that means we're gonna create some files and folder to follow page object pattern. So that means locator is going to be one place, your object for action is going to be in one place, and that will be making our framework more, I would say, usable in an actual environment. And lastly, we have to do configuration. We still haven't done any configuration work. For a framework, configuration is very, very important. That means utility. So I'm going to show you guys the last thing, which will be utility, how to create the utility in a framework. And then we're going to continue to just write test cases after that. And we're not going to work on the framework itself, because framework is only something that we work in the very beginning of the project. And sometime you will not even write that framework, somebody else will. And you just have to go and write your test. So any questions before I'm going to end the day today early, so you guys can enjoy the rest of your day. But also, I would say use the remaining time and use this exact time to get up to this much, and then text me or at least put it in the group if you have any difficulty. Send me videos or screenshot and say, hey, this is what I'm facing, and I'll try to help you. If not, then I will get on a call with you tomorrow or today to help you get up to this much, okay, in your site, in your computer. So if you do have any problem, I will be jumping onto a call to make sure that you have this much done. Okay, I think Juma has a question.
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Right. Why there's a red sign over there where the scenario outline is?
Right here.
Yeah.
So this is like one of the plugin that is responsible for running your test, trying to help you to say, hey, at some point there was a failure to this test, or there is a failed test, which is, we do have a failed test now. We have one failed test because of the number of Pomsky. And we did this in purpose. This is the actual number for Pomsky. So if I go ahead and do this and run it, and it will no longer have that red. Look. So it just gives you a reminder, hey, there is a test that failed here at some point. But as soon as all of the test passes, it will go ahead and let's see. And then the next one. And it's done. So now it should remove it. So let's see what happened. Did we have a test failure again? And we have to handle it. So one test failed, and let's see, test fail expected value should be more than this, but found. So somehow, oh, look at this unique situation, guys. This is another learning opportunity. What can we change in our logic to make this pass now?
Equal to, greater than or equal to.
Perfect. Yep, because we're not saying what if it's equal to, it's still fine, right? So we can go back and say it can be, where is it? We can say number more than or equal to. That's it. I hope it takes it like this. Oh, Norman. Yeah, that's fine. And then where is our assertion? Or equal to. And that's it. Let's run it again. And it should remove that red. All right, so notice it's no longer red. So this is a good indication. Again, this is unlike Eclipse, this IntelliJ gives you a lot of help even for using the free version. But if you use the ultimate version, you'll probably get a lot more than just this. But this is great. There is another plugin that you can actually add. So some of you guys, it's really up to you. And if you add this plugin, I actually tested it out in December So Cucumber Plus right here, if you edit, not only that it will make you red, I don't want to cancel. Okay, let me see some of the how it works. You see, it highlights it and everything for you. So not only if your step fails, not only is gonna make you red, it's gonna highlight the actual step. This line failed and it's gonna be red. So it does a little bit more than just what it is, but I think we're fine with this. But you can always add that Cucumber Plus to your IntelliJ. It will probably give you a better experience also. All right. With that said, guys, I would say
So sorry, earlier I told you I couldn't even run.
Okay.
So you wanna look at it?
Yeah, let's look at it. And maybe some of you guys have the same issues. Okay. Let me
Okay,
stop
can I-
sharing. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. Let me ask you to share 1 second.
Oh.
Then I will get the control and everything.
Okay. You can see my screen?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I was trying to run it and it says nothing here.
Okay, and that is because if you, okay, so 2 things we have to check. If you go to your settings, I think like preference, click on the preference. Let's see, settings shouldn't have that. Oh, there you go, plug in right there. And let's see what you have. So you got the Cucumber for Java, but you never restarted, right? Darken is there. So let's restart this real quick.
Yeah, because I couldn't find the preference. Like I have a window, so it's little different, I guess.
Yeah, the setting, it should take you there. So at
Okay.
least for Mac, is any user, they have preference. That's the, so notice how it's indexing and all that, and it's just going to probably, okay, so still, okay, but you don't have any step definition specifically, so that's fine.
Okay. Yeah.
You run it and let's see what happens. Okay, testing started 0, and that's it, right? Nothing to do in this case
Yeah,
because
now it's running, so it's good.
yeah. So now let's say I just want to see if it works for you before create a step definition. Just one definition at least. I'll click and put it in there, wherever it is. So we put it into Java. Okay, that's fine. My step def, and this is your step definition. And how come it's not letting me import something? That's like confusing. I think it's gonna be like at, it should be like at given, right? No. Import class, okay, given. That's it. Okay, good. And then we gotta probably get rid of this. And it has to be a function. So the way that ID is configured, you didn't do a very good job on okay, so let me see the structure of that. Even the dry run doesn't give you anything for some reason. So I don't know if this is a Windows thing, but 1 second.
Oh my God.
Full screen. Okay. So now, so given you got that right there, and we don't really, because you don't have any parameters, we don't need these regular expressions there. And this is fine. And then we need to close this, right? Because that's open. And then we don't need this specific. And you can just go ahead and write this, but we need at least public void. And you got to give it a name. So let's say I am on login page. So this could be one convention. And we don't need this. Okay, that's good. Public void. Now I may have too many open and close, so you don't need this one. What is going on here? Annotation is not allowed. Okay. Given is this your, instead that means public class is fine. Public, and then we don't need this after the class, right? We don't need this. Okay, so now it's happy and healthy. And so this is your starting, this is your closing, this is your starting, and this is your closing. That's fine. So now you can actually type stuff here. So let's say web, web driver. Is equal to driver new from driver. Something. Okay, so now you can run it. These ones, you can always put it back when you're ready. Okay, let's look at your pom.xml because this might be another issue there. And then you got the Q, JUnit. We don't need this actually. Cucumber Java, and this is where we need to put scope. Okay. This is what I was
Yeah.
talking about earlier. And this is the problem why we had the same issue. Let me just look at my pom.xml real quick. Scope, it was test. Scope is test, and then what else did we have? 6.1. Okay, so we got the 6.1.1 because that's a little bit better version. The 6.9.9, the one that you have, it's the latest and it might create problems.
Okay.
Sir, to get that dependency, you went on IntelliJ.com
Where-
to find
Yeah,
to enable the cucumber, but I'm on that website. I can't find that.
you can't. Okay, so if you go to, okay, let me, after this, I'm going to show you guys. Let me close my. Okay. So let's go and run this real quick and see what's the deal. Still 0.0. This is let's see. Added configuration. We have this. Okay, let's remove that. One. Okay. The thing is that it doesn't even find one scenario, right? For some reason, right? Oh, okay. All right, because you're using scenario outline, right? You have to, you have to kind of, it runs based on how many rows you have under the example table. So if you have nothing, then it's not going to run anything. So let's remove that for now until you have something, right? You don't have any parameters yet for this test,
Yeah.
right? So once you have it, you can add the example, but keep in mind, anytime you guys have scenario outline, if you don't have any data, it will not run, it will say 0.0, right? Okay, so now that it's working, it says the driver situation. So let me just give you the, I guess we got to go into that website to get that XML. So we can go to Maven repo. Okay, and then go there. And it's called Web Driver Manager, I believe. Web
Yeah.
Driver Manager.
It's A.
MA, and yeah, I'm just not even looking at my keyboard. Okay. Manager. Okay, that's good. So this one, it says automated driver builder. No, so that's fine. Automated Selenium driver binaries in runtime for Java. So this seems like the right one, but they have the same name. Let me see which one I guess I'll go with this one because it's more related, and this one nobody's using. Let me go back. At least this is 3 usage, which is fine. We'll click on that. Copy that and go back to your test. pom.xml. Okay, all this stuff is gonna probably come handy at some point when you need it, but at this point, we didn't write anything that uses like cucumber JUnit and other. Oh, okay. Clipboard access, I guess Control V. Okay. And I'll do this probably, and then it should be good.
So every time we add dependency, we
Oh,
just
never
have to
mind.
add
I
the
put it-
scope, right?
Yeah. Let's see, I gotta be outside of that. Which is a news to me because I never had to do this, right? Because we usually just copy it from Maven repository, right? So when I go into, and because we're using, I guess, IntelliJ, that's what they want us to do. But we, when I read the article that IntelliJ has, and it says, oh, we need to have that. So I'm gonna add it just to be precise. Control C, Control V there. Okay. So now that we have this and it's all ready to go, let's reload this one more time. Go back to the test. Control B should take us there. Very good. And then if I now say something like WebDriver Manager, perfect. And then I can say what next is, what do I need? Let me see, look at my code actually. Where is it? Okay, Chrome driver. Okay, so we may have the wrong. We should take the first one, but okay. Chrome driver. And then dot setup. So we should have taken the first library, but let's see what's the deal here. Rename, okay. So maybe the first library is the good one. Okay. I will go back. Yeah, I guess this one made sense to me because I thought it's specifically for Java, but this one is, so let's take this one. They have the same name, so it is pretty confusing. And this is highly used, so it makes sense now that I'm looking at it. Okay, so tapping at it, copied. Okay, that's good. So we go to the POM again. And you guys all also know the other way, right? The way that we did that was pretty manual. Oops, okay. Okay, I gotta go down. Control C. Okay, let's do this. Okay, we go back in here and that's it. It's no longer upset. Okay, so then if we run it now, let's see what we getting out of this. So it's trying. Let's see. Okay, perfect. Okay, so from here on, you can actually follow the rest of the
Yeah.
steps.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I think this is also going to help the rest of you guys. Anybody else with the same struggle? Okay, so you guys have 1 hour. We're supposed to do until 2. We didn't take a break, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys early sign off at this point. But I would say maybe before you finish the class, before you finish your day, or before you go back to your weekend, spend the next half an hour. Just get up to this much. I shouldn't take more than half an hour. If it does, just give me a text. I'll be still here to help you through this. So I'll jump in a call and try to help you. But the next half an hour, you maybe want to take 10-15 minutes break. After that, I would say set up the way that we did just now, and then be able to at least be able to open up the browser initially. And then you want to write the first test and the second test. And then the next class, we're going to just improve this framework to make it better and better and better. And as we go, we're gonna go more and more complex situations that we normally face at work. So this was one of them, calculation, but then we have a lot more situations, which is how do we deal with an element that doesn't even have anything at all, like no ID, right? No CSS selector, no class name. It's just by itself. That's one. How do we deal with situations where element comes and goes? Or sometimes pretty much the elements that we deal with, it's, think about this way: we got drop down, we got the checkbox, we got the text box, and we got a radio. And that's probably like all of the elements that we're going to be dealing with. But then we have new and improved UI frameworks that developers use to create their application. So now what do you see is that you'll see a text field is also a drop down somehow. You click on it, it becomes a drop down. Now you see a search box becomes a drop down and a text field. So you're dealing with 3 elements, and these are more complex situations. So the UI frameworks such as Angular, such as React.js, these are going to be interview questions. How do we do? Have you experience with React.js application testing? And then, these are some things that we're going to be dealing with in the future test cases, kind of more complexity to each of our test cases to give us a little bit of extra boost in knowledge every time we write a test case, right? So, but at this stage, I would say this is the last framework, guys. This is the last framework we're going to be dealing with. We're going to spend a lot of time. Now, if you do retrospective to this framework and go back and say, okay, I'm on the bare bone, the first framework where we just wrote Java, you can actually do significantly better because everything will be the same. In this framework, what is different? It's just that extra cucumber layer, but we're still writing code. We're still writing the Java code. So if you go back to the basic framework, you'll be able to do more than just what you did before, because it's the same learning. So there is no point for me to go back to the basic frameworks and spend so much time where we doing the same thing, right? We are still writing the code. But what I want is that everybody get more familiarity with Cucumber, is because that's the target. That is the target framework you'll work in an actual environment. Some of you guys will go and say, okay, I created a framework and I did this and that. And you're going to be actually doing this for a company. So the company is going to hire you and give you 3 months to create this framework, where we just created this, right? It takes us for half an hour. Then you will say, wait a minute, then how do they give you 3 months? It's because a framework has to be custom tailored to a product, right? What we just did is a basic bare bone, right? There will be a lot more features that needs to be added, a lot more mechanism that you will be adding in terms of configuration and making it better and better and better. And you have to hook it up into their system as well. So it's not going to be just one day and say, okay, I'm done with the framework. It requires a little bit of time. Even the test data, you have to deal with it the way that company wants. And test data needs to be dealt with in a way that you don't really expose the company sensitive information to outside world. And how do we do that? You have to think about encryption and decryption. And you also have to think about Git. When you push it to Git, you don't want to push any sensitive data, but somehow your frameworks still have to work when you run them in different environments. So we'll have to go through this. it gets just more than, you know, writing a small test or one test or two tests. But for me, if you ask me, when do you think I think that I'm ready? For me, if you can write tests with page object pattern, the way that we're going to do the next class, if you can write with page object and you write any test I tell you in any website, at least you attempt to. But if there's a huge difficult situation and you somehow you're able to, you know, kind of like come up with some constructive answers and say, okay, look, this is something that I cannot automate because of this, and that is the truth, then you're fine. But if you have a way to automate and you did your research and you're able to automate it, I think you are ready to be introduced to a team at this point where you can work and do this, you know, with more effort from your side. You will never feel like you're ready with automation, and nobody feels like they're ready with automation. Only if you're dealing with the problems, you get to you get to basically expand your knowledge and do better and better and better. So when you come to me or when the class finishes, I'm going to determine who's ready by seeing if you're able to write some, you know, automated tests. If you write one, even a random application, I'm going to say, okay, here's an application. I want you to automate this test case, and you can do it. That means you're good to go with automation. And that ability will come with a lot of practices. You have to keep practicing, and you have to go beyond what I just showed you, right? So when you are at home, you're automating and you face different difficult situations. Don't just say, okay, you didn't cover this, I'm not gonna go. Just try it, you know, just try it, keep expanding your knowledge. And then by the time we finish this course, you'll be fine. So keep that in mind, guys. In terms of automation, nobody feels ready, nobody. You join a company, you're still gonna feel like, oh my God, maybe tomorrow I'm gonna face this huge problem. But you have to be able to do your research, talk to your coworker, talk to even the developer and say, hey, do you think you have a solution for this? Because this is what I'm trying to do for the last couple of days and I can't. And they will say, okay, let's see if I can help you. And then they will sit down and then they'll try to give you some sort of answers. But you have to be a team player and try to work with everybody. No problem is gonna be like, oh, if I can't do that, then that means they will think I, you know, that I don't know anything. Even somebody with 10 years of automation experience, you'll see they sit down and they cannot just right away give you an answer. Even for me, I can't give you like a solution without reading it, without doing some Googling. And that is true for everybody. Okay. All right. With that said, guys, like I said, you still have half an hour. Please use that time to at least get up to the speed and send me a screenshot. It's okay, it's running. If you send me a screenshot of your, like, keep the screenshot up to here, 3 out of 3 when you see, let me share my screen. Maybe better. Yeah, so keep the screenshot from here to here all the way. So I can see you have 3 test cases and you have this structure right here and you have a test case right here. So that way, at least somewhat confidence for the next class where we will now don't worry about the framework, but we will worry about the features, the new features we're going to be adding. Page object pattern will be next. After that, we're going to start adding the utilities. Once we add 1 or 2 utilities, and we call it a complete. So actually two utilities we're going to create. One is being able to switch between browser. The other one is switch between environment. And after that, we're going to say, okay, the framework is at least completed. Now we're going to create more tests every day. And then I'm going to do a final test with you guys. I'm going to have you guys write some automated tests when I give you a random website. Okay. Any questions? And then after this topic, you guys are going into SQL, but automation is going to stay with you guys, meaning you'll have to practice at least 1 test case per day until you get a job. And that is the deal, guys. 1 test case a day until you get a job. Otherwise, it's not going to stay. It's not going to stick. Okay. All right. Seems like nobody has questions. So I'll see you guys on Tuesday. And if if you guys finish, please send me the screenshot. I'll be looking forward to those in the channel. And if you have a problem, just go ahead and say, hey, I can't. Can you help me? And I'll jump in. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.